Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Yes or No, a weapon review series where I give a clear and concise answer as to what weapons you should be using in Battlefield 4. By popular request, today I'm looking at the SCARier assault rifle. Always a strong entry in the Battlefield series, the SCAR in all its forms was a definite favorite of mine in Battlefield 3. I believe I mentioned favoring this weapon a long while ago, but should you be using the SCAR-H? Yes or no? Take it away, Sally.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Thank you, Sally. The SCAR-H was easily my favorite weapon at the onset of Battlefield 4 and has remained solidly competitive throughout the life of the game. It provides some major in-class advantages and has real personality that sets it apart from other weapons. So let's look at the benefits that the SCAR-H provides. Simply put, the SCAR-H is in a whole different weight class than other assault rifles. This is due to its maximum damage of 33 and its minimum damage of 21.6. The only other assault rifle to mimic this model is the Bulldog. This makes the SCAR-H a murder machine on normal, requiring at most 4 bullets to kill and as few as 2. On hardcore, it's a one-shot headshot. The SCAR-H has a blazing fast reload of 1.9 seconds when a bullet is in the chamber. At 2.4 seconds for the long reload when you're completely out, this is still faster than many weapons in the game. This gives the weapon the power to hang in close range combat and is a key distinction between this weapon and the Bulldog. One of the slightly less tangible factors of the SCAR-H is its predictability. The SCAR-H fires slow at 620 rounds per minute, has an even left-right deviation of 0.225, and does a lot of damage. Generally, when you have the jump on the enemy, they die pretty much at any range. I never feel like I'm fighting against the flaws of the weapon, merely my own skill as a player. That's the great stuff about the SCAR-H, but with great power comes some unsurprising drawbacks. So here's the things that bring the SCAR-H down a notch. The SCAR-H has a magazine size of 20, meaning that with the round in the chamber, you'll have just 21 bullets with which to get the job done. This tends to only be an issue in long, close quarters firefights. The damage of the SCAR-H offsets this disadvantage almost all the other times, as does the blazing fast reload. The vertical recoil of the SCAR-H is easily the highest among the assault rifles at 0.5 degrees per round. However, this is another disadvantage that is offset somewhat by the otherwise slow rate of fire. The upwards recoil is strong, but quite manageable, and it can actually be an asset in some circumstances. However, at long distance it does become difficult to keep shots on target. Something that hurts the SCAR-H at range is its low muzzle velocity. At only 500 meters per second, the SCAR-H fires very nearly the slowest assault rifle rounds in the game. Ultimately, this means that you'll need to lead your targets by a fair bit, again, a challenge that can be overcome. When the game launched, the SCAR-H also had one fewer magazine, but after last year's patches, the SCAR-H has been boosted to have 5 total magazines. Given the killing power of this weapon, it's now quite rare that you'll run out of ammunition with the SCAR-H. Interestingly enough, all the disadvantages of the SCAR-H are either offset by its advantages or can be overcome through careful play. Normally, I think the low rate of fire at 620 rounds per minute to be a deficiency, but when combined with the predictable recoil and high damage model, that low rate of fire doesn't take too much away from the gun. With the exception of the Bulldog, all the assault rifles that kill faster than the SCAR-H fire at 850 rounds per minute or greater. So in the SCAR-H we have both an accurate weapon and a fast killer. It's not a typical combination. The SCAR-H has one of the strongest vertical recoils in the game, but the rest of the recoil pattern isn't too bad. Given that the weapon has a low rate of fire at 620 rounds per minute, it's actually quite manageable. With nothing attached, the SCAR-H has a 0.5 upwards recoil, 0.225 left, and 0.225 right. That means that it's going to pull straight up in a V shape. On PC, this is exceptionally easy to counter by pulling down. That will counter the strongest recoil of the weapon. There's not much you can do about that left-right deviation other than reset the bullet spread by burst firing your weapon. Now because the SCAR-H can kill in 4 bullets or less, that's generally all you're going to need to let loose from it. At longer ranges you're going to have to burst quite a bit more to put your bullets on target. You optionally could also switch the SCAR-H to single fire to turn it into a very poor DMR. The SCAR-H is one of the more versatile assault rifles in the game. It's great at mid-range, has the punch to kill at long range, and can hang in the close-range battles. Honestly, this gun feels like it was purpose-built for me because of its fast killing power and lightning-fast reload. Assuming you're on normal, reloading frequently is actually a pretty good idea. That's a breath of fresh air from the bullpups I've been reviewing lately. Because it's such a strong weapon, your primary concern is to not put yourself into situations where you can be easily overwhelmed. at least not without some cover nearby. The SCARier is at its strongest when you're able to achieve stationary aimed shots on your enemy. Having to do fancy footwork when you're under pressure is not a strength of the weapon. The hip fire is nothing particularly amazing, but there are occasions where it can come in handy. Now, I'm particularly keen on taking body shots, but you may be more of a headshot kind of person. Something that works out pretty nicely in my favor with the SCARier is that strong upwards kick. I shoot for the chest, and then naturally my second shot will land somewhere near the head if not in it. A number of times I have found myself coming up with headshots on this weapon that I wasn't even taking. If you're on hardcore, you may wish to consider aiming directly for the head though, as the SCARier is a one-shot headshot weapon. In general, the SCARier doesn't require a huge amount of attention to detail. It can easily save you when you do foolish things and suits a lot of playstyles, both aggressive and passive. It's strongest in engagements under 30 meters, so be sure to take advantage of that and stick somewhat close to your enemies. If you find yourself at long range, control your burst or switch to single fire. The SCARier has a lot of potential attachments on certain slots, but never have I seen such a unanimous pick by the community on a very specific slot. Like always, I check BF4stats.com and see what the popular PC community picks are and cross-reference that to Battlelog. This is one of the few times I've actually agreed with the most popular loadout. For the optic, everybody seems to prefer the Coyote. I like this pick. I also happen to have a personal affinity for the Cobra sight on the SCARier, but the Coyote is just slightly better, particularly by giving the player a bit of extra vision on the scope in close range. Now, because the SCARier has such a slow rate of fire, the longer range scopes actually become a real plausibility on this weapon. I also found that the hollow 1x scope is a reasonable choice for the SCARier. Did you guess the accessory? By this point you should know I'm going to go with the laser sight. Pretty much me and everybody else seems to prefer this on the SCARier. Turn it off when you're not using it, turn it on in close quarters or when traveling. Now, you could try getting creative and throwing a magnifier on the SCARier, but that vertical recoil will really spoil your shots, and I don't think that the magnifier provides much advantage. Certainly not more than the laser sight. For the barrel, I initially had nothing but was converted to the heavy barrel after a few rounds of play. The heavy barrel is going to add quite a bit more vertical recoil, but you're already compensating hard for that. The trade-off is better moving fire and starting recoil, and I'll take that in this case. On PC, I'll just pull down harder on my mouse. I don't know if I'd recommend a heavy barrel if you're on console and if you struggle to control recoil. In your case, I'd probably use the muzzle brake, with which I also had some success. Now, a fun alternative that's actually not too bad with the SCARier is the suppressor. I found that this attachment was super effective at keeping enemies away from me while I killed scores of their buddies. I'd actually recommend this attachment, particularly if the enemy is keen about their minimap. The suppressor drops the bullet velocity to 330 meters per second, so you do give up the long range for some serious ninja assassin power. Finally, for the underbarrel attachment, I go with the angled grip. And this was the near unanimous choice among the community. The weapon isn't fast enough to warrant the stubby grip, and even though the first shot recoil multiplier isn't that strong, the SCARier definitely benefits from having the earlier rounds be more accurate, as it is highly lethal. Heavy barrel or suppressor, I ended up preferring the angled grip in all situations. There's a lot to the SCARier that makes it one of the best assault rifles in the game. It's definitely a personal toss-up between the SCARier and the M416 for my own weapon of choice. There's no question that the SCARier is a yes, it's very nearly the best assault rifle in the game. In fact, for quite some time now, it's been banned from certain competitive circles because of its damaged model. So if you like the SCARier, you might also like the Bulldog. The Bulldog isn't nearly as good at medium and long range, but it is tied for the third fastest killing automatic in the game. If the Bulldog isn't something you want in your yard, you could always try the M416, another solid assault rifle with quite a bit more all-rounder power. With a blazing fast reload speed and good mid-range damage, the M416 offers controllability and versatility. That's it for this episode of Yes or No. If there's something you think I missed, or if you have a particularly different take on the SCARier, please let me know in the comments below. If you found it offensive that I've been pronouncing it SCARier when it's actually an acronym, feel free to submit your own pronunciation below. If there's a particular weapon you'd like to see reviewed on the series, leave a comment indicating which weapon. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.